As Cowgirl softball begins a little bit of a rebuild, Cowboy basketball lands their potential NBA big man, and Cowboy baseball gets set for Big 12 play as they try to win another one for a legend on his way out the door.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Oldeo State. Today, we're brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more, especially right now when new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet is a winner. Go to FanDuel.com right now. Meanwhile, we get to slide into the conversation of Big 12 baseball. The tournament is upon us. We're about to go over the field. But before we do that, we have to discuss the fact that legendary pitching coach Rob Walton has decided to hang it up after this season is over. Rob Walton, of course, was part of some of the legendary Gary Ward teams in the 80s. He won multiple Big 12 championships every year he was here. He not only won a Big 12 title as a pitcher, but he also played in the College World Series. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles before going on to be a Cleveland Indians scout. Then he was hired by Oral Roberts to be an assistant coach before he took over at Oral Roberts as the head coach, then coming back to Oklahoma State as an assistant. In 12 years as Oklahoma State's pitching coach, he's coached 41 all Big 12 pitchers, 7 All-Americans, 2 Big 12 of the Year honorees, and 2 first-round MLB draft picks. He was named the 2016 Baseball America Assistant Coach of the Year. In 9 seasons as a head coach at Oral Roberts, he compiled a 367 and 167 record, almost a 700 win percentage there. He led the Golden Eagles to 9 NCAA tournaments. He won 40-plus games in 5 seasons and a 50-win campaign at ORU. At ORU, he also coached an additional 16 All-Americans, 14 Conference Players of the Year, 5 Summit League titles. He also coached Team USA on 2 different occasions as both pitching coach, and he was also instrumental in them winning the FISU gold medal. As it pertains to this particular season, right, I think a lot of us have discussed the fact that management of the mound has been somewhat problematic. Development has never been an issue. Recruiting has never been an issue. Getting the most out of guys on the bump, not been an issue. The only issue has been mound management. And that's where we're going to find out. Has this been a Rob Walton thing, or is this potentially Josh Holliday having his hand in too many of the cookie jars? Because, again, developmental-wise, Rob Walton has been an absolute legend. Of course, Carson Benj was a first-round draft pick. Brian Holiday was a third-round draft pick. Jensen Keesio, Robert Krantz, Sam Garcia, Tommy Mulsky, they're all very underrated. Jerron Watts-Brown was a third-round draft pick, as was Nolan McLean. Brian Hendry was, I think, largely underrated. Justin Campbell was a first-round draft pick. Nolan McLean, third round. Trevor Martin, third round. And as you go further on down the board, Thomas Hatch was a third-rounder. Remy Reed was a pretty good draft pick. Trey Cobb was another one that you have to kind of give some credit for there as well. Brendan McCurry, Vince Whelan, John Perrin, Jason Hirsch. And then obviously he got here right after Andrew Heaney took his talents to the majors. The question is, has Rob Walton's mound management really been the issue, or has it been the fact that maybe Josh Holliday is kind of getting on the phone and telling Rob, hey, you should make a move here, X, Y, or Z? We're about to find that out as the next year of baseball kicks in. We will have a new pitching coach. Regardless of how it turns out, it would be nice for us to make a little bit of a run here for Rob Walton, who has been on the staff when we won a Big 12 championship. He's been a part of 2 different instances at Oklahoma State as a coach, where you have the possibility of winning Big 12 titles. We've won a couple of them since he's been here. Now we're going to have the opportunity to do that once again. Thankfully, we're rolling in pretty hot. We were able to sweep Arizona State, which is a top 25 club. Coming into that series, Arizona State had a chance at a Big 12 championship. Obviously, we were able to kind of knock them off of that pedestal. Now we have to go take care of business, and it's not going to be easy because the second round matchup, if we were to get by the first round, is going to be against Rock Chalk Jayhawk KU. And of course, KU finished number 2 in the Big 12 after we swept Arizona State. Game 1 of the tournament is going to be Arizona State versus BYU, followed by Cincinnati versus Texas Tech, then Oklahoma State versus Baylor, then Kansas State versus Houston. Arizona is awaiting the winner of Arizona State and BYU. West Virginia, the champions of the regular season of the Big 12 tournament. So shout out to Steve, another former Cowboy that won his first Big 12 championship as a head coach for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Of course, KU is going to be waiting on the winner of us and Baylor, and the TCU is going to be waiting on the winner of Kansas State, Houston. Essentially, that sweep put us in a pretty good situation. Going into that series, there was a lot of prognostications that had Oklahoma State as one of the last 4 teams in the tournament before we swept Arizona State. So obviously, it appears as though we're likely in, but to make sure that your ticket is being punched to go to a regional, in my opinion, we got to win 2 games. So you've got to take down Baylor, and then you have to find a way to take down a pretty confident KU squad. This is the best finish of all time for KU. And, of course, this is West Virginia's first Big 12 championship. And to do it with a former Cowboy, Coach Saban's, it's a little frustrating, but it also makes you realize that there is going to be a pipeline of former coaches that played here or coached here under Josh Holiday and Rob Walton that are likely going to have a ton of success as time moves on. Roland Fanning is still continuing to do a very phenomenal job. The question will be who's going to replace Rob Walton, and is it going to be a big enough name for it to make the most amount of sense? We know, again, from a developmental aspect, Rob Walton is a genius. From a recruiting acumen, he's got all of it. Oklahoma State facilities are some of the nicest in the country. We're talking top 3, top 4 best facilities in all of the country. So the recruiting tools are still going to be there. And if we make a little bit of a run here, if we can stay on this hot streak, we could potentially be sending Coach Rob Walton out with a postseason Big 12 championship. There have been times this season where it didn't even appear as we were going to make the Big 12s. Thankfully, Utah, I mean, we knew they weren't going to make it because they don't know how to play baseball. UCF was a little bit of a surprise. I think a lot of us anticipated after the season they had last year that UCF was going to squarely be in the mix here. But nonetheless, there are 12 teams that are going to be participating in the Big 12 championships. And Oklahoma State, the way that we're playing right now, has as good a chance as anybody. And it appears as though Sean Youngerman is going to be the pitcher for Game 1 versus Baylor, which does set us up for the opportunity to see Harrison Bodendorf take on KU. KU has a phenomenal pitcher as well, so perhaps they might be in a position where they're putting their best guy up against who is likely our best guy at the moment, and Harrison Bodendorf. Regardless, I think we've seen that we have the starting arms to make a run. When we get hot, our bats are as good as anybody's. The question is going to be middle relief and closers. We don't have a true closer, which is kind of different for Oklahoma State, especially under Rob Walton. We've always been pretty good about having a tried and true all day, every day closer that could then catapult that into a minor league or major league career after Oklahoma State. That we don't have this year. It was Sean Youngerman. He was the original closer with Gabe Davis, going to be one of the top arms, not only in the Big 12, but in the country. Obviously, that did not come to fruition. Yeah, there was some discussions about perhaps him being brought in a little bit too early because of the collarbone surgery that he had in the offseason. But nonetheless, Gabe Davis has disappeared. Now, there could be some injury things that have popped up. It would be nice to see Avery Ortiz back in the lineup here. I think a lot of us feel pretty confident in Sean Youngerman and Harrison Bodendorf, and even Mario Pesca has pitched very well recently. And we have more than enough live arms in the pen. It's just been the management of them that has been the difficulty. And now we will know after this season if any of this was truly on Rob Walton or if a lot of it was Josh Holiday actually being the one to kind of call the shots and pull the punches. If so, I think that's slightly problematic. Thankfully, the Board of Regents just proved that if Josh Holiday doesn't make some moves, that it's going to get slightly precarious for him as time progresses. Did anybody necessarily want this to happen? Yeah, some of us out there. But now that it is happening, it's almost like a little bit of a gut punch because there is going to be that little lingering thought of, was this truly Rob Walton's mound management issue? Because there's been grumblings that Josh Holiday has more control than a lot of people have anticipated. I thought that Josh was too afraid to tell Rob what to do and not to do and this and that and the other. Perhaps it's not the case at all. And this is awesome for Rob. He's earned it. He deserves it. He's one of the greatest coaches at Oklahoma State history. He was part of the Oklahoma State baseball teams that won 16 straight conference titles. He played in Omaha every single year he was here. So those expectations aren't going to change whether he's on the pitching staff as a coach or not. But what we do know is Rob Walton has been a legend, going back to being a player and a coach, and he did phenomenal things at Oral Roberts. And hopefully he still has a lot of connections to the university. But watching him and Donnie Walton play together or coach together and play together, pretty amazing. Now he gets to go see more of Donnie, and I'm assuming he'll still chip in and help out. Speaking of chipping in and helping out, it is time for you to chip in and essentially help yourself out, because FanDuel has the NBA playoffs action that you're looking for, especially when you're getting in on the Thunder. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and cannot miss moments. Whether it's in-game shooting or breakout players, there's never been a better time for you to get in on the action, regardless of what you're trying to make the most off of. FanDuel makes it easy for you to stay in the game right before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. What would it look like to have your favorite player contribute to your live prop bet mid-game based on how the action's unfolding? How could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement of the first $5 bet? Well, you're going to be able to find out today by going to FanDuel. It's the perfect time to sign up. All you have to do is head on over to FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 back in bonus bets. Head on over to FanDuel today. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel. Make sure that you head on over to FanDuel.com. So now we get to shift gears a little bit here. We talked recently about Oklahoma State possibly getting the big guy that they've been needing, and we got him. So whether the contract thing was worked out, Lefteris Mantzoukas is an Oklahoma State Cowboy, and this is, again, somebody that we were talking about the other day. In 2023, he was projected as one of the top 15 NBA draft picks coming out of the European style of basketball, coming over from Greece. In the 2023 FIBA U20 championships, he averaged 16.4 points a game, 6.9 rebounds a game, 2.3 assists. He also competed in the event in 2022, 2019, and 21 total games across all 3 years at the U20 level. He averaged 14.6 points a game, 7.5 rebounds a game, and a pair of assists. He's going to fill in the last spots for this Oklahoma State roster, and he is going to join the Serbian forward Vukovic, who is coming back, Iranian-born forward Parsa Falal, and the Nigerian-born center Ben Ahmed. Obviously, Ben Ahmed decommitted from Miami. We're getting Parsa Falal from Oregon State. Vukovic is coming back after tentatively putting his name into the transfer portal. And I think what this does is it solidifies the fact that Oklahoma State does have expectations moving into this upcoming season. And whenever you have a cast, right? So if you look at some of the ratings for like a Christian Coleman or Parsa Falal was a 4-star 91.3 transfer portal rating coming over from Oregon State at 6'9", 260 pounds. Victorious Miller coming over from LSU is a 93.2 overall transfer 4-star rating. Anthony Roy, the sharpshooter, averaged almost 26 points a game for Green Bay as a 4-star 92.6 overall. Isaiah Coleman, we just mentioned, 93.3 overall coming over from Seton Hall. Kanye Clary had injuries last year at Mississippi State. The year before that, averaged almost 17 points a game as a Penn State Nittany Lion. I think this whole concept of Cowboy basketball maybe not being back, right, because the expectations are naturally going to be pretty high from some of the the old school Eddie Sutton days. And we're all looking for that. Thankfully, Steve Lutz is that kind of coach. He's the kind of guy that embraces that Henry Iba, Eddie Sutton tree of philosophy. Now, he also got to cut his teeth at other places. This is the first time that he didn't make the NCAA tournament as a head coach. And he's only been coaching as a head coach for like 4 years. And he did make the NIT tournament. Not only that, but that looked unlikely for certain portions of the season. Not to mention, when he got to the NIT, he found a way to win some games. And we were playing pretty decent basketball. I think that's the biggest differentiation between Mike Boyens and Travis Ford. And obviously what we have now in Steve Lutz is the development throughout the course of the season. We didn't get that often. And then we had Brad Underwood, right, kind of sandwiched in there. But I think a lot of us tend to try to forget the Brad Underwood days. But ironically enough, Brad Underwood was an Eddie Sutton style of coach as well. He was rough around the edges. He kind of irritated some people here and there. But he was very loud, very boisterous, very in your face, expecting quite a bit out of the basketball club. I think we have that again with Steve Lutz. We were just missing shooting, right? Much like JC Hoyt's been able to isolate the fact that we had rebounding issues, and she's been able to bring in not only a couple shooters, but some big-time rebounders. This is something that I think Steve Lutz has embraced. You've got 3 6'10" dudes now, and then you also have Robert Jennings returning. And whenever you look at somebody like Anthony Roy, if you were able to kind of put that into a box and force feed it to the rest of the team, this is going to be an X's and O's perspective basketball team that's pretty confident in their capabilities. All we lacked this previous season was the ability to shoot. And we got kind of lackadaisical at times on the defensive end. But I think that's also why you're seeing guys like Connor Dow enter the portal, having a guy from right up the road in Tulsa be a part of your program. Obviously, it's amazing. He was a pretty good shooter coming out of high school, but defensively, he was such a liability, it just didn't quite work out. Now, the only oddity of the transfer portal for us is the fact that Arturo Dean got out. Perhaps it had something to do with him not starting the first half of the year and kind of splitting time with Khalil Brantley, whatever the case may be. Arturo Dean, from a defensive perspective, was somebody that we could have utilized quite a bit this upcoming season. But nonetheless, we've got bigs. We've got Ryan Crotty also coming in that shot over 42% from three-point range. And now you have this big man, Lefteris, who also shot over 41% from three-point range. And the last year, at one point in time in the season, I don't remember if it was like halfway, three-quarters, whatever, he was shooting over 50% from the three-point range. Now, he's not your traditional big, right? He's not going to post up and play center like Moussa Cisse. He's more of a stretch four, in my personal opinion. And at 6'10" with almost a 7-foot wingspan, he should be able to be a difference maker down low, on top of having the ability to spread the floor and put up shots that we could not hit last year. Having three-point assassins is kind of important, especially in today's landscape of basketball. Do I love it? No. Do I wish it resembled more something old school? Yeah, but it doesn't. And you have to be able to score points in bunches, and that was the only issue we had this previous season. We had an athletic team. That was it. We didn't have any shooters. The only lockdown defender we really had was Arturo Dean. So it was just a scrappy bunch that he put together. I don't want to say last minute, but, we didn't really give him a whole heck of a lot of time to assemble that roster this previous season. You've got a couple good pieces returning. You've been able to hit the transfer portal very successfully. Having all of these guys coming in, be 92, 93 range when it comes to the evaluation scores, that's pretty impressive. And then again, you have Makai Ragland coming in, 6'9", 6'10", 250 pounds. You have Ben Ahmed coming in, who's somewhere in between 270-ish and 300, right? So he's probably going to take a little bit of time to get in shape. So now you have Lefteris coming in, who a few years ago was being projected as a top 15 European NBA draft pick. So this is somebody who likely just needs a little bit of additional work. And he can get that from Steve Lutz and Oklahoma State. Not to mention, NIL does make it a little bit more lucrative for somebody that's already been playing professional basketball for a few years now. But yeah, I think expectations Oklahoma State basketball need to climb because this class is indicative of a coach that understands the lay of the land and was able to utilize the leverage he gained from having other opportunities like the Texas A&M job. Speaking of things that may or may not be able to go our way, Oklahoma State Cowgirl softball season is over, and disappointment is largely going to be the most common denominator here. Now, we were able to, punch a ticket. We still were a top 25 program. So it's kind of ironic that that's a down year for Oklahoma State Cowgirl softball. And when I say we're in a rebuild, it's not like this massive ordeal that we've got to contend with. It's just little stuff. But on top of the little stuff, you are going to have some transfers that have gone out. Tara Vandewater has entered the portal. Taylor Anderson has entered the portal. Michaela Warwick has entered the portal. Talon Edwards is obviously the biggest surprise entering the portal. And the biggest question I think we need to look at is Carrie Eberly, right? We were talking about the legendary coach Rob Walton being the pitching mind that has been very instrumental to the success that Josh Holliday has had. Is Carrie Eberly that same thing for Cowgirl softball? Because Ruby Malin, All-American coming over from Washington, did she have a good year? Yes. Did she dominate the way that some of us anticipated? Some of the long line of Cowgirl pitchers in the last 5-6 years have dominated. We expected it. It didn't quite happen. I mean, she was the ace, but she wasn't as dominant as some of the previous Cowgirl pitchers have been, including Carrie Eberly, the Cowgirl coach. And then you had some portions of the season where Katie Coots was obviously emerging to be that number 2. And then Riley Crandall came back from injury. We had adjustments being made, putting Coach Vanessa Shippey-Fletcher coaching first base, while Kenny Gasky took over third base about halfway through the season because, something wasn't clicking, something wasn't working. The rebuild portion of this is coming into the season. Kenny Gasky said this is likely the most offensively talented team he's ever coached. That didn't happen, right? So there's clearly some things that need to be corrected. They need to be adjusted. And there's going to be some more portal entries. Now, Ruby Malin did put out a long thank you to Cowgirl, Cowboy Country. And it appears as though she might be returning, which would be big. If we get Riley Crandall back and Katie Coots back, if we can get this whole staff back, perhaps there's just going to be an evolutionary moment for all of them. And this was Carrie Eberly's first year at the helm running the pitching staff. So maybe she needed to learn some things throughout the course of the season as well. Regardless, this is too talented of a team to win one game in the regionals. And then even that one game that we won, it wasn't looking great for the Cowgirls against the Indiana Lady Hoosiers, but we had a big 7-run 6th inning to come back and win the thing. And then the frustrating portion of it was when you're playing Arkansas and they have the best hitter in the country in Bree Ellis, who was hitting like 472. Whenever you're playing somebody like that, you have to be able to maintain a lead. And that was the thing going into the final inning against Arkansas, game 1. We were up by a significant margin. And it felt like Carrie Eberly pulled a Rob Walton and tried to get a little bit too cute. And she went back to the starter in Ruby Malin, and it just didn't work out, right? And I think Crandall's having a good game. Yeah, they've got a couple runners on, but I just don't know if it was the right move to pull her. But regardless, we catapulted that into another game, and that was a disaster. So to end your season with like a 12-0 blanking, it's not good. It's not a good look. And you could tell, like, Kenny Gasky was frustrated in his conversations with the media, not like with the media or with the fan base. He was frustrated with his team and how they weren't showing up at big moments. And it's almost like we had been spoiled, much like he had been spoiled for the last handful of years. We were great at coming up in big moments. And that was the X factor that we just didn't have this season. So hopefully we have more than enough to kind of carry us over. But regardless, there is going to be a couple shakeups. Obviously, Talon Edwards is a little bit of a surprise name to enter the portal. We're going to have to do more to live up to the expectations of Cowgirl softball that Kenny Gajewski's raised. You're going to liken it to some degree to Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy raised the bar for Oklahoma State football. So when you win less than 8-9 games, it's kind of disappointing because you're the one who set that bar. Kenny Gajewski's been that. So there has been some craziness put out there by a couple crazy people. And I know that we all have the propensity to say some wild stuff on social media because there's some degree of anonymity, right? And there have been some people saying this is embarrassing. We need to run Kenny G out of town. That's preposterous. Kenny Gajewski is the best thing that happened to Cowgirl softball in a couple decades, essentially. So I think we're going to ride with this season being a down year. We made a regional. We won a regional game. We're still a top 25 team. Did it go the way it was supposed to? No. Should we have won the Big 12 title? Absolutely. But now we get to see how he responds because his response will likely matter more than anything else. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe my podcast and people out there. You know what it is. You know what you are. You know what you do. You make this thing go, and essentially you're the glue. So appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.